You are screaming into the void, and the void is not screaming back. For exactly 100 years, your entire civilization has been broadcasting radio waves into space. Every television signal, every military radar pulse, every desperate attempt at contact. This fragile sphere of electromagnetic noise, barely a whisper against the infinite dark, is the only proof you exist beyond your own atmosphere. And in all that time, nothing has answered. Not silence by choice, silence by distance, silence by the crushing mathematics of emptiness. If intelligence is out there, your voice hasn't reached it yet. If it died before you were born, you're calling into a graveyard. And if you're truly alone, then every word you've ever spoken dissolves, unheard, into the vacuum. Stay with me. By the time you reach the true edge of your solar system, you'll understand exactly how small that 100-year scream really is. A 100-year-old whisper. You've seen the drawing, the one from primary school, our solar system, carefully sketched on white paper with colored pencils. 8 neat circles arranged in tidy orbits around a friendly yellow sun. You probably drew it yourself once. Mercury close, then Venus, Earth with its blue oceans, Mars red and small, the gas giants further out, Saturn with those rings you spent too long perfecting, Neptune at the edge, marking the boundary where the page ended and imagination stopped. That drawing was a lie, not intentionally, but a lie nonetheless. The kind of comfortable fiction adults tell children to make the universe feel manageable, knowable, safe. The reality waiting beyond Neptune isn't empty space punctuated by planets. It's something far more unsettling. It's the discovery that your childhood home wasn't nestled in a cozy neighborhood at all, but perched alone on a barren plain that stretches toward nothing. Let me take you there. We begin at Neptune, roughly 4.5 billion kilometers from the Sun. This is where your drawing ended, where the familiar solar system concludes in every textbook diagram you've ever trusted. But you don't stop here. You keep moving outward, following the trajectory of 2 silent machines, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, launched by humans in 1977, now drifting through regions no human eye will ever witness directly. Almost immediately, Neptune vanishes behind you. Not gradually, it simply disappears, becoming indistinguishable from the background darkness. Then Jupiter, the largest planet in our system, blinks out. Then Saturn. Then Earth. That blue marble, that precious home, reduces to nothing, invisible, erased. You are now surrounded by a darkness so complete that if you turned around, you couldn't identify a single planet you once called neighbor. But the sun remains. That's your anchor now. No longer the blinding, life-giving disk that burns in Earth's sky, but a brilliant point of light. Brighter than any star you've ever seen, yes, but unmistakably a point. The parent star that once felt vast and omnipresent is now just another dot in an ocean of black. This is the Kuiper Belt, the region those neat diagrams never properly conveyed. You expected a dense field, perhaps, a crowded asteroid belt like the one between Mars and Jupiter. Instead, you find sparse debris, frozen rocks separated by millions of kilometers of vacuum. Pluto drifts here somewhere, irrelevant. The emptiness isn't dramatic, it's clinical, indifferent, profoundly lonely. The drawing you made as a child showed planets as if they were neighbors on a street, close enough to visit, to see, to matter to each other. The reality is a house standing alone on a desolate plain, so isolated that even calling the surrounding structures neighbors becomes absurd. You are leaving that house now, and with every kilometer, the scale of your isolation becomes more suffocating. Voyager 1 crossed into this region decades ago. It continues outward still, transmitting faint signals back to a world that grows more distant with every passing second. It carries no illusions about return. Neither should you. You never questioned the ground beneath you until you learned it was moving. The sun doesn't just shine, it screams. Every second, it hemorrhages a plasma wind at nearly 2 million kilometers per hour, a furious gust of charged particles that floods outward into the void. But this wind doesn't travel forever. Roughly 18 billion kilometers from the source, 4 times the distance to Neptune, it collides with something invisible, the interstellar medium, the matter between stars, cold, dense, indifferent. Where they meet, the sun's scream stops. This is where the heliosphere forms, a magnetic bubble carved by violence, by pressure, by the sun's refusal to be swallowed by the galaxy. You live inside this bubble. You always have. It surrounds Earth, Mars, Jupiter, every planet you were taught to name. But here's what they didn't tell you. It has a shape. Not a sphere, a teardrop. At the front, where the solar wind crashes into interstellar plasma, a blunt wall forms, a bow shock, like water folding around the hull of a moving ship. Behind it, the bubble stretches. It elongates. It warps into a tail, hundreds of billions of kilometers long, streaming out behind us as our entire solar system hurtles through the Milky Way at 828,000 kilometers per hour. You are inside a drop of oil, racing through a lightless ocean. But the heliosphere isn't the edge. Not even close. Beyond the magnetic bubble, far past where the solar wind dies, lies something older, colder. The Oort cloud, a three-dimensional shell of trillions of frozen bodies, each a remnant of the solar system's violent birth. It begins where the sun's gravity barely whispers, 100 billion kilometers. It ends where that whisper fades entirely, 3 trillion kilometers. A sphere so vast, so sparse, that if you stood inside it, you would see nothing. No reflection, no glint, just the suffocating certainty that you are surrounded. These objects never announce themselves until one is nudged. A passing star, a gravitational tremor. Then slowly, over millions of years, a frozen body begins to fall inward, toward the sun, toward you. And only then, only when it crosses into the warmth and begins to bleed gas and light, do you see it. A long-period comet, a ghost made visible. This is the true boundary of your cage. Not rock, not metal. A cloud of sleeping sentinels, so distant they barely belong to the sun at all. So answer this. If your solar system is a magnetic teardrop racing through an interstellar sea, wrapped in a trillion-kilometer sphere of frozen silence, what are you? A passenger on a vessel you didn't board? Or a prisoner who never realized the walls were there? You drift, the drop moves, and the ocean has no shore. You stand at the edge of a beach, toes in the cold sand, watching the waves roll in and out with mechanical certainty. You press your foot down, hard, leaving a perfect impression. The ridges of your sole, the arc of your heel, the pressure of your weight, all captured in granular detail. For a moment, it feels like proof that you were here, proof that you existed in this exact spot at this exact time. But the tide doesn't care about proof. From just 10 light years away, a distance so trivial in cosmic terms, it barely registers as separation, our solar system looks like nothing more than an ordinary, unremarkable star. One yellow dwarf among hundreds of billions. The planets, completely invisible. Earth, Jupiter, Saturn, all of them erased by distance and glare. The only way an observer could even suspect their existence would be through painstaking measurements of gravitational wobble, tiny shifts in the star's position caused by orbiting masses tugging at its center of gravity. The cosmic silence then becomes perfectly logical. We are simply too small, too faint, too ordinary to warrant attention in a galaxy drowning in starlight. This explanation offers comfort. It suggests we exist in a kind of cosmic anonymity, not ignored, but simply beneath the threshold of notice, safe in our smallness. But this logic shatters the moment you reconsider the radio bubble. A gravitational wobble indicates a planetary system exists, but it says nothing about what lives there. Rocky worlds, gas giants, frozen wastelands. The wobble is indifferent to biology. The radio bubble, however, is different. It isn't a side effect of existence, it's a declaration of intelligence. Television broadcasts, radar pulses, military communications, radio signals screaming outward at the speed of light, creating an expanding sphere of artificial noise that simply should not exist in nature. This bubble is your footprint, your only footprint, and it has been expanding for exactly 100 years. 100 years. In a universe measured in billions, your proof of intelligence has existed for a single, flickering eye blink. The sphere now extends roughly 100 light-years in radius, a volume containing approximately 15,000 stars. 15,000 chances for detection. But here is what you must understand. This isn't a permanent monument. Radio signals degrade. They spread, dilute, and dissolve into the background radiation of the cosmos. What begins as a sharp, undeniable transmission becomes indistinguishable from stellar noise within a few hundred light-years. Your footprint is already fading, and the tide is still coming in. The silence isn't because you are hard to find. The silence is because the signature of intelligence itself might be an impossibly brief and faint flash, a 100-year whisper in a 13-billion-year conversation. By the time the signal travels far enough to reach anyone capable of listening, it may have already degraded into meaningless static. Or worse, by the time it arrives, you may have already stopped transmitting entirely. Civilizations rise, they broadcast, they fall silent, and the evidence of their existence continues outward, weakening, scattering, dissolving, until nothing remains but the ordinary light of an ordinary star. You look down at your footprint again. The foam reaches your ankles now. The edges blur first, details smoothing into vague suggestion. Then the center collapses, then nothing. The sand remembers no one, and the beach, indifferent and endless, rolls on. You exist in a bubble 100 light-years wide, and that bubble is everything you've ever screamed into the void. Every radio broadcast since Marconi, every television signal, every transmission beamed toward distant stars in the naive hope that someone, somewhere, might be listening. All of it radiating outward at the speed of light, forming a sphere of electromagnetic noise that represents the entire technological voice of your species. 100 light-years. In a galaxy that spans 100,000, you are a whisper from an unremarkable star. From 10 light-years away, your sun, the center of everything you've ever known, becomes just another dim point among billions. No solar system visible, no planets discernible, just a faint, forgettable glimmer that an alien astronomer would catalog with a number and forget by morning. And your radio signals? They've weakened to the point of indistinguishability from cosmic static, drowned in the background radiation of a universe that hums with its own indifferent noise. You are not broadcasting to the cosmos, you are muttering to yourself in an empty room. Here is the crushing truth. Our cosmic significance, by any measurable standard, is zero. Not metaphorically, statistically, physically, zero. But here, right here, is where the awe enters. Cold and vast and strangely beautiful. Because you are the snowflake in the lifeless desert. You are the single, intricate crystal of improbable complexity that formed against every conceivable odd, in a place where nothing should have happened at all. Your existence required the precise collapse of a molecular cloud 4.6 billion years ago. It required a planet at exactly the right distance, with exactly the right mass, orbiting exactly the right type of star. It required liquid water, a magnetic field, a stable orbit, a large moon to stabilize axial tilt, and a Jupiter-sized guardian to sweep away extinction-level asteroids. It required a universe fine-tuned to 6 decimal places, where the cosmological constant sits on a knife's edge. Any stronger, and matter never clumps into galaxies. Any weaker, and the universe collapses before stars ignite. You are not important, but you are achingly, impossibly rare. The universe does not care that you are here, but you are here, a singular arrangement of atoms that learn to contemplate its own insignificance, alone in a silence so vast it has no comparison. And like the snowflake, you are melting. The sun will exhaust its hydrogen in 5 billion years. The Milky Way will collide with Andromeda in 4 billion. Entropy will dismantle every structure you've ever built, every thought you've ever had, until the universe reaches its final state, cold, dark, and perfectly uniform. Your bubble of radio noise will expand, weaken, and eventually become indistinguishable from nothing. But for one impossible, unremarkable moment, you were here, complex and conscious, staring out into the void from a grain of sand, aware of your own fragility, struck silent by the sheer statistical miracle that you existed at all. The awe is not in mattering. The awe is in happening. You are alone in a graveyard of frequencies. Your radio bubble, that fragile sphere of I Love Lucy reruns and Cold War transmissions, continues its expansion into the void at the speed of light. But with every light second it travels, the signal weakens. The inverse square law doesn't care about your hope. Double the distance, quarter the strength. At 40 light years out, those transmissions that seem so significant, the moon landing broadcast, the first television signals, are now barely distinguishable from the background hiss of hydrogen between the stars. You're standing in a cemetery, and every gravestone is a dead frequency. The universe operates at a background temperature of 2.7 Kelvin, the leftover radiation from the Big Bang itself. This cosmic microwave background is everywhere, always. It's the static you'd hear if you tuned a radio between stations, only vastly more ancient. Your signals must compete with this primordial noise, and they're losing. Within a few hundred light years, even your most powerful transmissions will be indistinguishable from the 13.8 billion-year-old whisper of creation itself. The Arecibo message, that carefully constructed sequence of ones and zeros sent toward globular cluster M13 in 1974, won't arrive for another 22,000 years. But here's what you haven't considered. By the time it gets there, it will have spread across a region of space hundreds of light years wide, diluted to the point of invisibility. The universe doesn't amplify, it only ever dissolves. You've sent Voyager 1 beyond the heliopause, carrying its golden record of human achievement. It's now 14.8 billion miles away, the most distant human-made object. But distant is a human word. In cosmic terms, it hasn't left the driveway. The Oort cloud, that vast sphere of icy debris surrounding your solar system, extends nearly 2 light-years outward. Voyager 1 won't even reach the inner edge for another 300 years. It won't escape the Oort cloud for 30,000 years. And the universe doesn't notice. The sun will eventually expand into a red giant, consuming Mercury, Venus, possibly Earth. 5 billion years from now, it will shed its outer layers and collapse into a white dwarf, a dense ember slowly cooling in the dark. Your radio signals will still be traveling outward then, though there will be no one left to remember what they meant. But you're not just broadcasting into silence, you're listening to it. You've aimed radio telescopes at thousands of star systems. You've monitored millions of frequencies. The SETI project has analyzed decades of cosmic noise, searching for patterns, anything that might suggest intelligence, intentionality, a voice in the static. You found pulsars, those rotating neutron stars whose clockwork precision once seemed too perfect to be natural. You've detected fast radio bursts from distant galaxies, mysterious and repeating, but you've never, not once, heard another civilization. The WOW signal, detected in 1977, lasted 72 seconds. It was 30 times stronger than the background noise, matching the expected signature of an artificial transmission. But it never repeated. You've pointed every available telescope back at that region of space, and there's been nothing. only silence. So you're left with a question that keeps you awake in the small hours, staring at the ceiling of your insignificance. Are you listening to a universe that has never spoken? Or are you standing in a graveyard of radio bubbles that have already dissolved? Countless other species who broadcast their existence into the void, whose signals weakened and faded and became indistinguishable from the background hiss, leaving nothing behind but the same static you're hearing now. You don't know if you're the first to speak or simply the last to be heard.